Hi, today we're going to make a fireplace tool handle using a cube twist. This isn't too exciting, but a 1-inch solid square bar, about 20 inches long, is what I started with. That's how I light my forge. It'll warm up a little bit. Just the end of the bar, we're going to upset the end. Do a little jumping on the anvil. The end of this bar has to be upset because of the type of twist I'm going to make. If I don't upset it, the twist isn't nearly as attractive on the end. This is upset to about 25% more of the width of the bar, so this will be 1 1/4 inches or so, and well up into the bar a little bit, because I have to draw a taper out of one corner of that end. I want that taper to be maybe 5 inches long, and at the bar side of the taper maybe 3/8 or a little 3/8 square or a little better than that, a little thicker than that. This is by far the most difficult procedure in making this handle, drawing this out, because if you think about it, I'm actually drawing out just a little bit of the end of a 1 1/4 inch bar at that point, and it's hard. I started with a really light hammer, then I went to this hammer, which is much heavier. It's probably 8 pounds or more. I use it for a little while till I get a good start, and then I go back to smaller hammers. This takes a number of heats to do. You can see it's starting to draw out. I started by drawing about 1/2 inch over the edge of the anvil using half-face blows to my normal forging hammer, which is a little over 2 pounds. Just keep drawing this out. I could have done this under the power hammer, but I chose to do it by hand just to show how it's done. If I did it under the power hammer, I would need to use a little bit of tooling, but it's fairly simple. That goes to about 1/8 of an inch on the end of the taper. Here I'm just dressing up the end of the bar and hopefully upsetting just a little bit more, not much. I still need that end upset. Next we cut grooves down the end of the bar, starting about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch from the end. I make a line, and I'm going to cut very deep grooves, about 4 or 5 inches long or so. It depends on how long you want your cube twist to be. That's kind of a personal thing. This handle is going to be used for a broom for a fireplace set I'm making for myself. You cut the groove in one side, not quite as deep as you want it, because you're going to go back and widen it later, open it up later, and then you deepen it a little bit more. But these grooves are cut deep. Cutting them deep is the secret to getting good cubes to pop when you twist it. I've cut on all 4 sides, probably 3/4 of the depth, and I go back and open those grooves up. Obviously, some of the sides have closed a little bit, and I just go and open them up and then go a little bit deeper. I go to within, these grooves are probably 1/4 of an inch deep or more. That sounds a lot, but it is a lot. I just go all the way around, opening them up. Next I'm going to draw the stem on which the broom part of it's going to be woven. This is below where you hold the handle, where you hold under the handle. you start down about, drawing this down about 3/4 of an inch below the grooves. You'll see in a couple minutes or a minute or so here, I'll take this over to the anvil to kind of clean up that transition, since these are not drawing dies. These are actually flat dies with a very generous radius on each side. I like this little hammer. It's a Nasal 1B. I'm actually kind of taking my time here, making sure I don't go into rhomboid. Here I'm taking it over to the anvil, and I'll work on that transition from where the grooves are down to the smaller part of the handle, to the stem, or whatever you want to call it. Just work it around. Do this on the horn, obviously, because I want it rounded there. You want to be careful that you don't thin something too small there, because it affects what you can do with the power hammer then. So I won't use all of this bar. Actually, when I'm finished with this sequence here, I cut about 6 inches off of the end, of the full bar off the end, and then just take it down to about 1/2 inch by 7/16 or so. I'm just straightening this up here. I'm going to be putting a little decoration on it, just below the grooves. Use a chisel, and I might make diagonal bars, one going one way and the next one going the other way. 45-degree diagonal bars. About 8 of them. This is just a little accent. Dresses up the handle a little bit. So we put in the diagonals, and then come back with an eye punch to put circles between them. You'll see this detail later, and maybe hopefully appreciate the addition it makes. My drawn out area actually didn't have to be that long, because it'll have a long broom on it, but in working with a power hammer, sometimes you want that length. Straighten it out. Next step is to cut the cubes, and to do this I use a angle grinder with a zip disc in it. If you use a zip disc for this, be sure you buy good ones. This is a Walter. I'm sure there's lots of good brands, but don't buy real cheap ones, because they'll disintegrate if you're not really careful and skillful with them, and it's dangerous. Now, in this at this time I'm wearing eye protection, ear protection, gloves, and a leather apron. And before I learned I needed to wear a leather apron here, I probably set myself on fire 2 or 3 times. You feel the sparks, and then you feel the fire. It's not pleasant. I've got a closet full of shirts with holes in it from forge welding and from doing this kind of grinding. I space them just approximately. I used to measure them, but I don't anymore. I just make them about cubes, and when I get down near the end, if I need to adjust a couple, I do that. And when you're done with one side, one corner, then you turn it 180 degrees and go do the other corner. There's lots of variations that could be done on this cube, but I actually like this version the best. I've seen numerous others. Simple to me is elegance. In preparation for the twist, we heat this whole end, and heat it deep and thorough. It needs to be a very strong, even heat. Put the twisting wrench on it. I twisted this just 180 degrees. How far you twist it is kind of personal, personal preference. It depends on how long the twist is, how aggressive you want it to look. This particular one looked pretty good at 180 degrees. Take a wire brush and clean it up. Now, if your twist kind of goes awry in shape, you can use a wooden mallet on a piece of wood to straighten it out. And this one actually held pretty good for me, so I didn't need to adjust it. But I just wanted to show you what I use when I do need to do it. Next is put my mark on. I have a mark. My name is Dave Hammer, and I've got a little hammer, which is my mark symbol, and with my initials in them on the hammer. I'm going to draw that loop in the end. First, I'm going to put a little curl on the end. I bend this the wrong way about 30% of the time. I'm going to go back and unbend it and do it. But also, I'm going to hit on that little loop when I make the big loop. So I go and I cool it in a little bucket of water there. You didn't see that, but I did it. Bend that down. Bend around this small mandrel. Got that loop a little offset, so I have to heat it up and punch it down. In making this loop, it would actually be better to work with a leather mallet or a wooden mallet, but sometimes if these are heavy, it's a little difficult to do that. So I usually end up using my forging hammer. Just clean it up with a wire brush. Next, those of you who know me know that I like to put a little brass accent on. I got a little carried away on this one. Put a little more on than I normally do. Normally I just like to put a few highlights on. Butcher's wax is my finish of choice for indoor projects. This is Butcher's bowling alley wax, clear. They make 2 versions of it. There we go. Now off to my friend who will put a broom end on it for me. Good project.